Originally, this is just an ordinary martial arts competition, but they turned it into a murder due to negligence and indifference to life, resulting in the death of martial artists in the ring. The arena is a stage where heroes gather, countless contestants strive for fame, their stories are praised and shared. But in this world, where there's justice, there's also evil. Some people can leave a lasting legacy here, while others bear infamy. Unfortunately, this episode belongs to the latter. Today's video is not a movie scene, but real cases in the boxing ring. This young black boy is only 24 years old. His name is Dennis Munson. His regular job is a repairman, and like most boys, he has immense passion for martial arts. One day in May 2013, he enrolled in a kickboxing class with dreams in his heart. The gym is called Rufus Sport, and is the largest training gym in Milwaukee. 2 UFC champions, Anthony Pettis and Tyron Woodley, once trained here. And even Rose was once a member here. And today's amateur kickboxing match is organized by this gym. The match took place in March 2014, just 10 months after Dennis signed up. This was Dennis' first competition, but it also became his last. At this stage, Dennis can be said to be a complete novice with no experience or knowledge of the rules of the game. According to the regulations, all amateur players must wear protective gear for the match, but this match didn't adhere to that, just for the sake of so-called entertainment. In the first round of the match, Dennis took the initiative to attack, despite it being his first time participating in a competition, but he also yearned to defeat his opponent. You can see how easily he knocked down his opponent with a low sweep kick. Then came the second sweep kick, and the opponent fell heavily after his body went airborne. Being able to apply everything he learned in real combat is the joy of a novice. Although his performance in the first round of the match was outstanding, he never imagined the cruelty of the match. As the match progressed to second round, the opponent kept changing attack angles while he only countered when the opponent attacked. Gradually, the opponent found a breakthrough. After several heavy blows landed, Dennis' movements began to slow down and even his footwork lost its coordination. However, almost no one noticed all of this. When the match reached third round, the moment of life and death arrived. Dennis no longer attacked and even his punches seemed weak and feeble. Dennis became a punching bag on stage, constantly beaten by his opponent throughout the entire round. I believe that those who often watch fighting sports know that at this moment, Dennis' condition no longer warrants continuing the match. But the referee chose to turn a blind eye, allowing Dennis to be beaten by his opponent. Looking at how Dennis walked back after the end of the round, staggering and swaying, he looked like a drunken man. Even the audience could see the problem, but the referee and coach remained indifferent. What was the referee doing? He leaned against the side, resting. What about the ringside doctor? He was playing on his phone in the stands. And what about the coach? He kept pressuring Dennis, urging him to get back to the match as soon as possible. After the end of third round, Dennis slowly collapsed on the platform, and the medical staff wanted to give him oxygen, but the ringside doctor deemed it unnecessary and outright rejected the proposal. When it came to choosing a hospital, the team opted for a small medical center instead of a more specialized hospital. Dennis was already semi-unconscious, and his last words for his family were, "Help me." But after an hour of resuscitation efforts, the hospital declared Dennis' rescue efforts futile. In the video provided by event organizers to the police, a portion mysteriously disappeared. What happened during the disappeared footage? Why did the event organizer deliberately omit it? Now, let's reconstruct this missing scene. It's the 32 seconds before Dennis collapsed. Ringside doctor didn't check boxer's condition but was busy playing on his phone in the stands. It wasn't until the referee nudged him that he realized that there was a problem with the boxer. Earlier, it was mentioned that the boxer showed abnormal behavior in the second round, but during the break in the second round, there was no examination of the boxer. Instead, he was focused on playing on his phone. Now, about the referee, he was the closest person to the boxer but should have noticed the problem firsthand and promptly paused the match for evaluation to assess whether the boxer was still capable of continuing the match. Despite the match lasting for 3 full rounds, he didn't notice any abnormalities, even resting on the sidelines at the end of each round. Lastly, the coaching team. They usually train the boxers and accompany them to matches, being the most trusted individuals for the boxers. However, they failed in this trust. As the boxer gradually weakened, the coach didn't evaluate the boxer's physical condition based on his performance on the field. Instead of ensuring communication with the boxer through eye contact, he continuously pressured the boxer to continue, even after the end of third round, pushing his shoulders, slapping, and grabbing the neck. It wasn't until Dennis could no longer support himself, his legs giving away, collapsing heavily to the ground, that his coach realized the severity of the situation. He brought his student to the match, but he cannot bring him back. They all had the authority to terminate the match, but they didn't. When faced with the staggering Dennis, they chose the most indifferent approach, to turn a blind eye. So what was the attitude of the event organizers? The initiator explained that Dennis has sickle cell anemia and intentionally concealed the illness to participate in the match. However, after a forensic examination of Dennis's body, there was no evidence of sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell was not the cause of death. The real cause was complications from head trauma leading to organ failure. So, amateur matches without protective gear, severe negligence by the staff, and the event organizers' evasion and shirking of responsibility. After Dennis' death, people sued the referee and the training center, eventually ending in a settlement. The specific compensation amount was not disclosed. These apathetic staff members simply lost their jobs and made compensation, but Dennis, at the age of 24, lost his life while pursuing his dream. The second match occurred in 2015, and it was the most malicious play. Every punch the opponent threw was aimed straight at the back of the head, aiming to disable the boxer. The boy in the footage is named Pritchard Colon, a rising star in the boxing world, winning the national championship 5 times. After entering the professional boxing, he achieved an astonishing record of 16 consecutive victories in just 3 years. He could have had a bright future, even challenging for the World Boxing Championship title. However, a match with a dirty player changed his life drastically. Colon was born in Florida and began practicing boxing at a very young age. His youth and childhood were spent in applause and gold medals. In 2012, Colon decided to enter professional boxing and ended his amateur career with a record of 170 wins and 15 losses. After joining the professional boxing world, Colon showed an unstoppable momentum with his solid skills, achieving 16 consecutive victories in just 3 years. He could have soared in the boxing world, even becoming a new generation boxing superstar, but accidents happen. In 2015, a match caused this undefeated boxing prodigy to plummet from the sky to the ground. His opponent's name was Terrell Williams, with a professional record of 15 wins in 15 fights. Victory was equally important to him as an undefeated boxer. In this match, he continuously hammered Colon's back of the head with heavy blows. When Colon expressed dissatisfaction to the referee about the foul play, the referee remained indifferent to the fouls. Colon finally couldn't take it anymore and vented his frustration with a punch to the groin, resulting in a 2-point penalty for Colon. This action completely enraged Williams. This time, William didn't hold back at all, and his punches landed squarely on Colon's back of the head with tremendous force. This scene angered the audience, and William was penalized 1 point for it. After getting up, Colon told the referee that he felt dizzy and nauseous and wished to stop the match. After an examination by the ringside, it was assessed that Colon could continue the match, so Colon returned to the ring once again, but his opponent didn't hold back. By the 9th round, Williams delivered another blow aiming directly at, again, the back of the head, causing Colon to collapse in agony on the ground. The referee finally ended the match. After returning to the locker room, Colon began to experience symptoms of vomiting and was immediately rushed to the hospital by an ambulance. During surgery, doctors snatched him back from the clutches of death, but Colon went into a coma that lasted 221 days and woke up paralyzed. Meanwhile, instead of claiming responsibility, Williams closed all his social media platforms amidst a storm of criticism and returned to the forefront of boxing after 2 years of silence. The sudden tragedy struck like a lightning bolt, plunging Colon's family into unprecedented danger. In the beginning, Colon's mother had to take care of Colon, who was unable to care for himself, and also had to constantly go to court to seek justice. It was unimaginably difficult. Fortunately, Colon's father, who had been divorced for many years, returned to the family upon hearing the news, shouldering the burden with his mother. On good days, they would take Colon to the nearby park, read Bible and newspapers to him, and help him with some rehab exercises. Thanks to years of diligent care, Colon has shown significant improvement. Although currently he cannot live like a normal person, his family always believed that a miracle is just around the corner. This player had just endured a fierce battle. He had been struck more than 300 times. The coach kept pleading for him to give up the match, but he kept shaking his head, refusing to surrender. This also became their final conversation in the boxing ring. His name is Maxim Dardashev, a professional boxer from Russia. In his boxing career, he has won numerous awards and is also an outstanding student. He studied sports management in university and officially entered professional sports in 2016. In just 3 years, he achieved 13 consecutive victories without a single defeat. His personality is like the winter in St. Petersburg, brave, resilient, and never giving up. His mentor Ruslan said that Dardashev was full of passion when he first started boxing, with an unstoppable desire for the sport. He always aimed to surpass himself, never backing down from a match, no matter how painful or challenging. His opponent was Sabrio Matias, a boxer from Puerto Rico, who also had an undefeated record of 13 wins before this match. The match was dubbed by The Outsider as Mars colliding with Earth-like showdown. That night's match was truly brutal, with both sides battling fiercely until the 11th round, with Dardashev being hit over 300 times. Next came the scene where the referee pleaded with him to abandon the match, but he kept shaking his head, unwilling to lose like this. However, the coach ultimately decided to end the match. It was the first time in Dardashev's professional career that he lost a match, and everyone knew that he had been seriously injured. But what no one anticipated was that in the backstage, he began to feel dizzy and even vomited violently. He was quickly rushed to the hospital where the doctors diagnosed him with a subdural hematoma caused by cranial trauma, resulting in bleeding within the skull. The doctors performed surgeries immediately, but he still could not escape death. 4 days after the match, he tragically left this world, leaving his son and wife behind. He was only 28 years old, with a record of 13 wins and 1 loss, and it was this 1 loss that claimed his life. Matias prayed for Dardashov to pull through after the match, but upon receiving news of his death, he expressed regret multiple times. Matias said, "No one's willing to leave when pursuing their dreams. We step into the boxing ring to make our families live better lives, but we don't realize how tough this path can be." After hearing the news, Khabib Nurmagomedov posted on social media, saying, "This incident once again proved to us that some things are more important than sports. Every time I hear or see such news, I begin to detest the sport. Nothing in this world is eternal. Glory, money, titles. We will all leave this world someday, and no one can possess these things forever." On the day Dardashov was buried, hundreds of people attended the funeral. His wife gazed at his body, saying the last words to her beloved husband, "Goodbye, my love. I hope we can meet again someday." Boxing is a sport with its own magic. It teaches boxers to constantly challenge themselves, but fighting to the death is something no one wants to see. Dardashov in the boxing ring was like an unyielding nail. Interpreting the fighting spirit was his indomitable spirit, even sacrificing his life for it. What lessons can we learn from these 3 matches?